Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 134.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast is brought to you by 99 Designs, the online marketplace that helps you get outstanding book cover designs at an affordable price. Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP. Enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99.
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, where if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And now, here are your hosts, three guys who sometimes use their powers for good instead of evil: Johnny, Sean, and Dave.
Hey, everyone. Oh, I should turn that down. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, the podcast that follows three full-time authors as we attempt to change the face of indie publishing. Join us and our trailblazing guests as we shove aside boundaries, freely experiment, and occasionally screw up. I'm Johnny B. Truant. My co-hosts are Sean Platt and David Wright. You know, I trimmed that a little bit, and it still seems too long. I still feel like I'm rambling. But what else is new, right? Like, what else is new?
You know what? I've been thinking that Dave really needs a theme song. I don't mean like the "What's Up, Dave's Butt," but like just a general theme song. And it should be like a calliope.
Like a jingle?
No, like just music, like circus music. That's like a carousel slowly breaking down. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Like all the happiness is just seeped out of it. Because okay, so rewind 10 minutes and Johnny and I were talking and we were waiting for Dave to get on and we were like super excited. Well, I don't even remember what we were talking about. Oh, we were talking about Simon's reading of Robot Proletariat, which we're both listening to right now because it's about we're gonna write the sequel next. And so we're all blah, 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 blah. And then Dave gets on, and it was so... he just looks all sad and grouchy. Now, to his defense, he's sick. So...
And my son had strep all week, and he was home, and I'm trying to write this book, and I can't write with my son next to me. Like, it's just been a horrible fucking week.
Well, he's got to learn how to spell...
on fire today.
He's got to learn how to spell cunt somehow. I mean, think about it. Watching your words form on your screen is just as good as any.
Yeah, well, the first days he was sick, he was like in my office, just crying the whole day, just like he was
Isn't that what happens in your office?
horrible pain. No,
like your office isn't used to pain and crying.
But then when he started to feel better, but he wasn't good enough to go back to school, he was in my office like playing video games. He's just like singing and humming. He like doesn't shut up. He's like, Sean. I'm like. I'm just crying. I'm crying at that point.
Oh well. Anyway, I want to start off. This is very in your face, and Dave's probably going to roll his eyes. But we did a thing that I mentioned a while ago with the Fiction Unboxed pre-order that I would feel really negligent if we didn't at least tell you guys about. So the Fiction Unboxed is on pre-order. This is actually a good technique, I think, for anybody using nonfiction, which is how we mentioned it before. We created the Write, Publish, Repeat Conversations video course. It's a 30-part video course, and it's free with that. But that ends at the pre-order. Dave's actually rolling his eyes. Do you know this is how people market and that this shows?
No. I'm laughing at Twitter.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get back to that later. But the pre-order ends on December 3rd is when it goes live. So before that, if you pre-order the book, you get that Write, Publish, Repeat Conversations video series free, and it also goes up from $2.99 to $4.99. So,
yeah, and to curb some of the emails that we will inevitably get because we're already getting them, the conversation series appears on the last page of the book, but you can't get that until the book goes live on December 3rd. So basically the flow is you pay $2.99 now, and you'll get the book on December 3rd, and on that day, the conversation series link will be there on the last page.
Right. Froze a little bit for me, so I was very confused. But if you want it, you can search Udemy for it if you just want to see what the course is. But we go into like what we've learned in the year since Write, Publish, Repeat. We sort of go through the book and hit every piece of like this is how we really apply it. This is what we've learned in the year since. It's like an updating, and it'll be $50. It'll be $49, but we want to give it to you guys free as an enticement for the Fiction Unboxed pre-order. So just letting you know that that's
free
ending
or
soon.
$3. If you already have the Fiction Unboxed book, which you may very well, if you backed Kickstarter or you're a platinum reader, then you already have the book. So then it's $3 for the series, which is still really awesome.
Right, that's true. It's not technically free. It's free with the pre-order, but I think
And
we're
it's
going to
10
do
cents
this.
a video at that point. But it is a great nonfiction strategy. And
I think we're going to try to do something like this with every Smarter Artist release going forward because it's
it just makes
win-win.
sense. Yeah, it just makes sense. It's
We
good.
want our most loyal tribe getting in there free anyway. We don't mind that.
And long term too, you can even take those videos and you can cut them up and have them on YouTube as lead gen for the book and for the course, and you create that content once. It's really, really cool. Like, I'm really glad we did this. I haven't posted it yet, but before we started today, I was writing something for the Sterling and Stone blog that just announces the series. And I was talking about when we first came up with the idea, and we we really want to do this. It would be really, really cool. We'll do that in 2015. But as happens so often, we'd get pushed into doing something immediately.
And the flow there, by the way, is Sean mentions it. I go, yay, that's cool. And then Dave goes, oh, these fucking assholes. And then he's got to deal with it.
I have stopped paying attention to everything until I get an urgent email saying
until he has something he has to. It's so true. It's so true. Dave's like a gopher who only raises his head out of the lawn when either a lawnmower is coming to lop his head off, or like there has to be a reason. He's just.
And then what's funny is that Sean dilutes the value of that by putting urgent with everything. Dave urgent. So every email becomes Dave urgent, and then nothing is urgent.
Oh, I never do that.
And when we were doing it in Asana, you used to make tasks saying, Dave urgent, please read for every Dave task. Motherfucker. So anyway, so as part of the Fiction Unboxed experience, I just proofed the audiobook, so I thought I'd play a little bit of it for you guys. Now, starters, is it already in the library, or have you done that yet? The Platinum Readers? Sorry, not starters. Platinum Readers, Sterling and Stone.
Wait, what about the Platinum Readers?
Do they have the audiobook yet?
For Unboxed?
No, Fiction Unboxed for the Platinum Readers. Okay, well, you will. Like, that's part of the deal. But I wanted to play a little bit of it because it's got Simon making us sound very classy again, and this was just, I laughed at this part when I was going through it, and I think it's very characteristic of what we did. So I'm going to play it. It's 2 minutes, and 2 minutes does feel like a long time on a podcast, but I think that this is an interesting...
1 minute and 48 seconds too long, just for the record.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and play this for you guys. This is Simon Whistler reading the Fiction Unboxed book. This is Chapter 4, Building Our World, and it's about the Day 3 meeting where, let me do a little bit of setup. So if you weren't in Unboxed, on Day 3 we had done 2 days of intense brainstorming, and then on Day 3 we had a meeting in the morning where we were supposed to, Sean had taken our stuff, like he had taken the everything that we talked about, and we were all excited, and Sean was going to come up with story ideas, and we were going to start writing the next day, and it was the disastrous day for Unboxed. We know this is like D-Day, and we had to come back in the afternoon and rescue it. But this is the first part. This is where Sean has just shown up. He's giddy with new ideas. He's going to tell us about the cool things he's come up with. I'm going to start writing. The energy is high, and all three of us. So this is Simon reading the audiobook of that section. It's 2 minutes long.
The first thing Sean gave us after preliminaries were out of the way was a question. Have you ever heard of the Akashic Records? Dave and I had no idea, but trusted that Sean would show us how, whatever it was, tied into our story seeds from the day before. They're a record of the collective unconscious, everything that anyone in the world has ever thought or will think or has happened or could happen.
I just want to interject that what we had spent 2 days talking about was steampunk pistons and dreams. Okay, so continuing this.
The noises Dave and I made at this point were the politer equivalents of okay. We had no idea where Sean was going, but he'd been at the last meeting, same as we had. He was a smart guy who paid attention. Surely this was going to tie in to dream extraction, genetic manipulation, a society where pseudo-precogs were tortured into manifesting what society needed, maybe a Romeo and Juliet vibe. Right? But instead of hitting any of that, Sean went on to explain that thousands and thousands of years ago, there were terrestrials, giant creatures made of earth, and celestials, which were basically elves from the heavens. At the yearly solstices, these two races met, combined in a ceremony Sean termed nativity, then mutually annihilated into a substance called crumble. The Fiction Unboxed transcripts don't include psychic transmissions for some reason, but luckily I have a record of them. Here's a snippet. Dave, psychically to me. What the fuck is he talking about? Me. I'm sure he's getting to something cool. We just need to hang in there. So we hung in there, waiting to see how this tied into something familiar. We knew Sean was giving us background, stuff that we had to understand, but that would never appear in the story. We watched to see where he was going. But after 10 minutes, there was still no mention of dream extraction, dream police, mermaids, demons, clockwork, or anything else familiar. Me, psychically, to Dave. If it'd at least give us a signpost, something familiar, anything at all. It was at yesterday's meeting, right? He suffered head trauma and has already forgotten everything that preceded today, because none of this makes sense, given what came in days 1 and 2. Dave, this meeting is like the finale of Dexter.
So there you go, a little bit of the Fiction Unboxed audiobook goodness for you.
Yeah, so that audiobook, we will put that up to the Platinum readers. It is an unannounced bonus that wasn't part of the Platinum reader lineup, but
Actually, I think that's
part of
the deal that they get.
Yeah,
audio.
we finished it, and so it was, done, and so we'll put it up to your library. We just have to do it before it's available on Amazon.
Isn't that nice of us to do what we promised? That's how we like to surprise you guys around here. I have a ninja trick to report. We know our general attitude on ninja tricks, but I wish I had it in front of me. I apologize to the guy who sent it to us. It wasn't our idea, but we're gonna use it. So indies have pre-orders, right? And you can't get reviews on pre-orders unless you're Jason Gurley, apparently, or Sean Platt and David Wright with Yesterday's Gone Season 5. But in general, you can't. And what this guy told us, which, again, I apologize for not having his name, is that if you put up the paperback on CreateSpace, then you can send people to that, and they can leave reviews on the paperback, and it will link when the two editions link. So you essentially get the ability to have ratings on your pre-order if you send people to review the paperback. So we did that. We put that up there today, and correspondingly, if you read the Fiction Unboxed book, selfpublishingpodcast.com/FU review, we would love that. But that's something, FU review. That's what Dave's.
Steve Volker is the guy's name.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. Can't wait to see that. Garrett either knew or hopped onto that comment and tried to pretend because he was like, hey, the paperback is up. You should do that because then they'll link. So maybe kudos to Garrett. So there you go. We're going to have a guest. Our guest is Rachel Fulginiti. I should have gotten the pronunciation for sure. And she's going to talk to us not just about audiobooks, because we've had several people on. We had Ray and we had David Lawrence on to talk about audiobooks, but specifically the phenomenon of audiobook narrators having their own marketing force and following, which Sean can tell the story of sort of why we wanted to talk about.
They basically have their own tribe. I actually have 2 stories about this that I can tell.
Do you want to wait till Rachel's on?
Well,
so we can do some voicemails, is what I was thinking.
Yeah. If we have voicemails to do, then that's a good idea.
Okay, so let's go ahead and handle some voicemails. Do I have this up? Okay, let me turn the iPad back up. Okay, so first one is about promoting.
Hey, thank you for making this avenue available to all of us who are lost and in need of direction. Question. I self-published a short work of fiction. I did it under a pen name, and now I'm having a problem. I can't promote it. Any thoughts? Thanks.
I feel like I want to send her to Lindsay Baroker's latest post about. You're sort of smiling there, Dave. Did you have a thought?
Well, I was thinking it's a similar problem to what Lexi had, actually. But yeah, go to Lindsay Baroker's blog, where she launched a series of, I think, 3 books. It was
Yeah,
under.
let's put that link in the show notes so it's easy.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes, which will appear on the blog. Um,
Jacob.
Basically, she launched 3 books under a pen name. Didn't use her own. She didn't push it under her own name at all, and basically did very, very well. So you can find out how she did it on her blog.
I think for a pen name, I think KDP Select is a pen name's best friend. You can, especially if you have more than one title and you use, one to piggyback into the next, which is a key takeaway from Lindsay's post, by the way, is that she didn't go out with one title. Because it's very easy to get lost. She had a strategy. She had a strategy ahead of time. I'm going to use this book to promote this other book, and I have more books coming, right on their tails. And so that's a pretty smart way to do it. And I think that, as much as we don't, love Select for the whole exclusivity thing, and we really are trying to build a platform, not just on other retailers, but on our own site. So exclusivity just doesn't work in all cases for us. But for a brand new author, I think it's still strong, and for a pen name, I think it's even stronger because your hands are tied in that way. And KDP Select is how Lexi did it in her first 6 months to a year. Flat out. That is why she sold books.
And you can also advertise in places like BookBub and the such. That will help you get exposure.
All right. Next question is from Kev.
Hey guys, my name is Kev Buff. I got a question for you guys about short story compilation length. So I've got this compilation of short stories. There are 5 short stories. The compilation is 15,000 words. Is that enough word count for a short story compilation? Like I know Dave and Sean have some short story compilations, and they seem to be much. Assuming they're much longer than that, there's 18 stories in one of them or something. And also, should I at least have 6? Is 5 it's an odd number, not a good thing? So anyways, I just want to know if my product is up to the standards of what it should be for a compilation. And also, what would be a good price point? $2.99? Is that too little? I originally was thinking I would want to do $5.99, but I realized it was such a small word count until I put them all together and saw that was the word count. So those are many questions I have for you guys, but thanks for giving me the opportunity to ask them.
Yeah, I have a hard time with the word compilation and 15,000 words. That's not much of a compilation. Our shorts, they're not quite 15,000 words, but some of them
or more.
Some stretch, and I'd say average they're a
How
little.
How long is Corrosion? Do you know?
Corrosion is 6,700 words, and that's a little short for Realm and Sands. Decoy Wallet is 14,000 words. The Baricio ones are usually around 10. Dave's Watcher is 13. So I think that, dude, nothing more than $2.99. Nothing. $5.99 for 15,000 words. Axis is $5.99, and it's 150,000. All the Yesterday's Gone seasons are $5.99. They're 100 to 150,000 words. You really want to deliver that experience, because if I downloaded a compilation, and you're using words like compilation, and I found 15,000 words and I was done in an hour and I spent $6, I wouldn't be too thrilled. And I'm not that money conscious either, but I would still be like, well, this author overcharged, and you don't ever want to overcharge. Yeah, I think that $2.99 is the most you would want to charge. Dave and I, all of our Dark Crossings have 6 to them, the little mini ones. They're $5.99, but they have 60,000 words. Our Dark Crossings collection that has 18 stories is 180,000 words. Dave, do you have it handy? Show how big that is?
No, I don't have a copy of that. I only had one, and I didn't even have one.
Oh, we need to get you one. Anyway, it's big. It's a very big book, and it's all the shorts that we had written up to that point. So I would either just price it $2.99 or write more shorts and actually put out a compilation. or put them out individually at 99 cents, even though it sounds like they're probably not even.
Although I would argue that free is better than 99 cents if you have a smartphone.
I would too. So.
Yeah, well, I was just saying another thing. You need to adjust your expectations on short stories. Unless you're already a well-known established author, they are a very difficult sell, and they're even difficult when you are established. They don't sell very well for us. They sell a fraction of what our regular stories sell, and that's even when we've run them fairly cheaply. Our core readers will buy it, but most of our readers won't buy it. And if you're trying to get discovered now, and you're doing it with short stories, it's going to be difficult, and I would price it as cheap or free as possible.
Are we really just going to let the sentence go, Dave's watcher is 13? Nobody's going to comment on that? I feel like that warrants a mention, but okay. One more voicemail, and we'll move on. So this is from Tom.
Hey guys, this is Tom. I am calling with a question for the Self-Publishing Podcast. I think this is a question more for Johnny, but I'd love to hear what Sean and Dave have to say about it. Make a long story short, a couple years ago, me and a group of friends got together and basically formed a small organization. A lot of people came together and did some really incredible stuff. And a couple months ago, I got the idea to turn that event into a novel, a heavily fictionalized, fantasy novel, about as far removed from the real events as possible. But some of what actually happened and most of the characters, and especially their names, will be heavily, heavily influenced by the real events. And my question had to do with, I know that most books come with a copyright page that say this is a work of fiction, and any similarities between real people and real events is pure coincidence and invention of the author. In your Bialy Pimps book, Johnny, you didn't have that copyright page. And my question is, are there any considerations to writing a novel where the people and names are, and some of the events are very closely paralleling real-life people and real-life events? I'd love to hear what you guys would have to say. Thanks for the podcast. You guys are awesome.
I feel the need to preface my answer by saying I am not a lawyer. What I say shall not be taken as legal advice. But my understanding as a non-lawyer is that for somebody to be bothered enough by something to sue you, they would have to be able to establish that you somehow damaged them.
Yeah, defamation of character actually has to be something where you can prove. And again, I'm not a lawyer, and this isn't advice, but defamation of character is, you've cost them in some way. You've cost their reputation is somehow besmirched in a way that that they can no longer make a living, or you have cost them money.
Can I sue you all for having me on Better Off Undead then?
Yes. No.
I'd like to pause at this moment to say that Decoy Wallet is a work of fiction and bears no resemblance to persons living or dead.
One of the best cases I've ever heard on this is Eminem. That song Brain Damage? Way before my baby daughter Haley, I got harassed by this 8th grader named D'Angelo Bailey.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so D'Angelo Bailey is a real guy. Like, he actually used the guy's real name. Right? So D'Angelo Bailey was an 8th grader who boxes and acted obnoxious, right? And he used to hit him up in the lockers. So now D'Angelo Bailey is a sanitation worker in Detroit. And he sued Eminem for defamation of character, and the judge dismissed it. Now, yes, granted, Eminem has way better lawyers than any of us do, but still, like, he named the actual guy in a song and talked about, and it was like way over the top. And maybe this was because it was parody, but he talks about how he like ripped out his spinal cord and all this stuff. Like, he calls him names and he ridicules him in a song that sold millions and millions of copies. So I think that your book is probably safe.
Right.
On the flip side of that, though. Yeah, you can be sued by anybody for anything, pretty much. You just have to be careful. It's not whether or not you'll win the lawsuit. It's the cost of fighting it in the first place. It's sort of a pain in the ass. So if you're writing something about somebody that they might take issue with. Even if you're like friends right now, they might later not be friends with you or whatever. I would err on the side of caution.
I was actually going to raise that point. It's not just a matter of whether somebody can win a lawsuit against you, it's whether somebody can bring a lawsuit against you. And Eminem's case against D'Angelo Bailey, like, he had to pay his lawyer, like, that I'm sure was not a cheap thing to defend.
No.
D'Angelo just didn't make any money. So there is that, and I guess the way that I chose to handle that is I changed all the names, including the name of any places. I mean, it takes place in Columbus, it takes place on High Street, Ohio State University, all that. But as far as like business names that were involved or anything like that, and character names, it just and it's so fantastical. Like, it's so not anything that actually happened. There were anecdotes, just like in anything we do. There are anecdotes that were that kind of really happened, but that's not what the book was about. And the things are so crazy in it that you'd be ridiculous to think that those were real. So
use the word allegedly a lot. I hear that works.
Yeah, I agree with Dave though. I wouldn't try to poke anybody. Like, Eminem was asking for it with D'Angelo. You know what I mean? Like, did he not think of that before he published the song?
Anyone else want to have D'Angelo on the show?
I totally do. I'm better off.
I want to get sued.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna send Rachel the link in a moment. Were you about to say something, Dave? I don't want to cut you off.
We did have a question on YouTube. Do you want to wait to get to that, or?
Let's actually spontaneously, before you get to that.
Okay.
It just occurred to me, like, I was thinking about the Black Friday sale that we're gonna do with on everything on Sterling and Stone. We're doing a Black Friday sale, and it just made me wonder what your Black Friday plans were, Dave. Because I mean, let's face it, if there's a holiday you celebrate, that's it, right?
Yes, every Black Friday I hide out in a bunker, get all my weapons, and I'm ready.
So what are you going to do if you? I mean, when you're bunkered in, bunkered in your Black Friday bunker, I'm thinking you're going to spend a lot of time writing and designing book covers, right?
Exactly. That is what I do on my Black Friday every year. I design book covers. But if you're not like me though, and you don't design your own book covers, and you need a book cover, we have a great sale. Well, not we, the folks at 99designs.com. They're doing something special just for you, our audience. In celebration of
wonderful special people.
Yes. Okay. If you don't already know what 99 Designs is, welcome to the show. Basically, they have tons of designers waiting to deliver you an excellent book cover in usually about a week, and it's great. We've had a lot of great experiences with them. They design many covers for us, and logos. Logo for Sterling and Stone, that great unicorn logo, that came from 99 Designs. And right now, if you're thinking about getting a book cover, you should buy it between the 26th and the 3rd, and you are going to get $30 off.
Oh my God!
$30 off.
Oh my God! I'm definitely doing that.
And all you have to do is go to the regular page that you go to when that we've mentioned every week.
Of course, is 99designs.com/SPP if you want that Power Pack upgrade.
Yes, you get the Power Pack upgrade and you get $30 off. So if you've been waiting, if you're on the fence, whether or not you should do this, now is a great time to do it.
And the only downside is that you may lose approximately $270.
No, you don't lose anything. That is a beautiful.
Oh my God!
That's a beautiful thing about 99 Designs. You have absolutely nothing to lose if for some reason there's no book covers that you like from their zillions of designers. Then you don't have to do it. You say, okay, forget it. Contest over. We've never had that happen though.
Author out.
They've always delivered for us, and they've always delivered great covers, better than the ones that I would have come up with, definitely. These are pro cover designs here. It's a great deal.
So start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP. and get that free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99, which gives you the more exposure, and they bold and highlight your listing, and you stand out, and that makes designers say, I want to work with that person who was smart enough to get the Power Pack upgrade from 99designs.com/SPP. Right? So there you go. So I have invited Rachel, and she'll probably pop in mid-sentence, but do you want to go ahead and do the question that you were mentioning?
Yeah. Mike Underwood says, hi, folks. I wanted to ask if any or all of you had seen and had thoughts about Ursula K. Le Guin. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Maybe not. Speech as she accepted a Lifetime Achievement Award from National Book Awards, especially this portion. Quote, right now we need writers who know the difference between production of a market commodity and the practice of an art. Developing written material to suit sales strategies in order to maximize corporate profit and advertising revenue is not the same thing as responsible book publishing or authorship, end quote. So basically he wants our input on something that none of us have seen based on the quote.
No, but I like the quote.
I'll go off on it!
No, I do like that quote. I like that quote a lot. That's something that we've... And actually, I've been reading Christine Catherine Rush's book called Discoverability. And she... hey, Rachel, I'm waving to you. I'll finish my sentence, and then I'll do a proper welcome. She makes the same point. Is she's like, you need to be an artist first and keep your marketing mind out of the studio, and then after it's done, then you turn your mind to marketing. I wholeheartedly agree.
I couldn't agree more.
So there you go. All right, I'd like to welcome our guest. Rachel, I realized I didn't get a phonetic pronunciation of your name, so is it Fulginiti?
It's actually Fulginetti.
Fulginetti.
Okay, we can barely hear you.
It's kind of low. I can turn you up, but I don't think I can.
Google Hangout.
Okay.
How's this?
That is
fantastic.
Better. Yeah.
You sound like a professional audio person.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Except that we can't see you, but
oh, you
I don't
can't
know where you
see
at.
me because I'm sorry that this isn't more together. Let's see. I wonder
Like we're talking to a ghost.
I know.
We're
I wonder if
interviewing
I
your
can-
chair.
This is what it's like to be in Dave's head.
If I reconfigure my thing so that I'm so sorry, you guys. Why don't you carry on and I'll try to figure this out?
All right. Well, here's what I can do. So the reason we know Rachel is she narrated. I'm going to play a sample. She narrated the part of Kai Dreyfus in the audiobook of The Beam, and so I just, in the spirit of we're having her on, I figured I'd play a short sample. It's not as long as the Fiction Unboxed sample, but she was definitely one of our favorites. I don't want to pick favorites because then we slight the others, but we really, really liked her performance. So I'm just going to go ahead and play just the first bit of the first Kai chapter, just so you guys can get a feel while she's messing with her mic and stuff. So here we go.
The trick to being a good escort, Kai knew, was to make the man she was with feel like he was the only person in the world she'd ever care about. That meant she couldn't discuss other clients, leave remnants or mementos of other clients around, half-ass her affection, or talk business. For the time she was booked, Kai became her client's girlfriend, wife, confidant, whatever he wanted. She kept extensive records of each client's background in a characteristics file in her canvas. Subtle cameras in her apartment and embedded in her retinas recorded every second of their every interaction, and a sophisticated AI algorithm stripped the footage for relevant details.
All right, I could go on and on, but we've already played an excerpt, and I don't want to go on. But yeah, it was a great performance. Are you set up over there? Do I need to stall for some more? Do you think?
I know you can see me, but can you hear me?
No.
You still can't hear me?
We can hear you, but you're very quiet.
Very quiet. Okay, hold on 1 second. How about now? Is that better?
About the same.
Still the same.
And now I hear an echo, which is good. So I hear myself coming back. So you'll need headphones at some point.
I will. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
Sean can tell his stories while you're hunting around if you want.
Yeah, I think that.
There you go. Okay, so these are the stories that made us, that prompted us to think about this topic.
Yeah, so this started. I've been binging on audiobooks a lot lately, just because I wanted to start walking more because I'm just a total slob. I've totally stopped exercising, and so I wanted to be better about walking every day, and also I've kind of lost the joy of reading fiction because every time I sit down to read fiction, I start rearranging the words in my head, and it feels like work. So I kind of had lost that, and I felt sad. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to walk more and I can listen to books while I do it, that's two great things. And I've really, really enjoyed that. I've been walking a lot, and I have been listening to a lot of books, and I'm alternating between fiction and nonfiction. So the first time that this ever happened, I had just heard Risa Walker's Timebound right after she was on our show. And I thought, you know what? I want to read her book now. But of course, by read now I mean hear. And so I listened to it, and I thought it was great, fantastic for the record. I was very happy. I love time travel. But then it was whatever, and I don't know, maybe a month later, maybe 2 months later, I was listening to The Fault in Our Stars, which I never would have read that in a million years because I never would have had the time to, but it's such a huge phenomenon as a book, and so I'm like, I can listen to that. So I downloaded it off Audible, and I was listening to it, and I kid you not, it was 10, maybe 15 seconds into the narrative when I'm like, I know this voice. I know this voice. I just spent 10 hours with this voice. And I clicked over, and sure enough, it was the narrator for Timebound. And I thought that was really, really cool. And I know that we had heard that before, that narrators have their own little tribes. They have people who do care. They follow them from book to book, just like you would follow an author from book to book. But these are narrators, and people like the way that they interpret a story, the way they tell a story, the voices they use, the inflections they use. And I just immediately, like, I was so warmed. Like, I thought that was really, really cool. And I'm like, I got it. Now I get it. I get what they're saying. And we're launching Axis of Aaron. And one thing that's kind of cool about Axis is that we weren't rushed to have the great, we lost her.
She left.
We weren't rushed to have Axis to market to coincide with the Axis print and digital release. David Lawrence is doing the reading for that one, and David Lawrence is a really good example of this phenomenon. He has his own tribe of people. He has his own people who like his books and the way he reads the books and will follow him just because he's the one narrating it. And so when we launch Axis of Aaron, yes, Platinum readers will still get that totally for free. But when we launch it, it will actually be a launch where we'll probably be doing stuff on his show, for his blog, and answering questions about it, and he'll send an email to his list, and it's a whole different thing because he, as a performer, is doing it. And I had already had that conversation with David when I heard the narrator for Fault in Our Stars, but it was one thing to hear it, but it was another thing to experience it, and it was really cool. It was really, really cool to think, oh, I feel comfortable with this person. She's already told me a story, and it took 10 hours to tell it. Anyway, it's really neat. I'm experiencing the same thing with Simon right now.
Is this the second story? I'm trying to delineate which is the second story.
Well, no, they're actually just all blended together. The second one was the David Lawrence one.
No, so 3 stories, because Sean gave us more than we planned for. Go ahead.
But with Simon, like, I really, really love the way he tells a story. His reading of Robot Proletariat is just, it makes me laugh, and it makes me just happy. Like, I'm so looking forward every time I leave the house to go on a walk. More Robot Proletariat. And it's not just because I like the story, which I do, but I like his performance, and it's a separate thing. And I never really got the audiobook. Like, I thought of audiobooks as an efficient way of consuming information, or consuming a story, and that was how I approached it when I first started, listening to as many as I have been lately. But it's more than that. Like, if you have a good performer, it's an individualized version of that art, and it's really, really cool. And so anyhow, that's my story.
I think it's definitely a good idea for indies to do that, because in one sense it is 20%, like, because for most books you're definitely not going to get most of your juice. By the way, we're sort of vamping because Rachel vanished and she sent an email saying she'll be back.
Google killed her.
Right, so that's just Google fucking with her, right? So anyway, so I'll just continue on this. It is definitely at 20%, but if you aren't sacrificing a ton of time to get your book on Audible, so it kind of makes sense. And I would actually say the same thing for CreateSpace for a lot of people. If you think you can get through the formatting relatively easy and you aren't going to pull your hair out. But ACX in general is, I know that they changed their terms and it's not as favorable as it used to be, but it's still 40% of purchase price, which is way above what you would get with if you had an audiobook produced or something like that by a larger company. And you basically just claim your book. Like, you go and you claim a listing and you type in your book, and it matches, like, it pulls up Amazon ones that are on Kindle store or whatever, and then you just say what kind of narrator you want. And if you're going to do a royalty split, it isn't costing you anything. You're just splitting whatever is earned. And some books won't earn out a lot of money, but what have you put into it, you know?
Yeah, and it's a discoverability thing too. I mean, we want to be in as many places as possible because it helps people find us, and that's a really cool thing. And you got to think too, 40% of the purchase price, it's not 40% of $2.99. You know, the audiobooks cost more than other books, and so that 40% is higher, and it does add up.
Like the Beam audiobook, which we don't get 40% of that because it's a different deal. It's not an ACX deal, but that's like $35,
it's
right?
$34.95. Yeah,
it's almost as much as a book.
Almost. Oh my God! Do we know what the price is going to be on the Access hardbacks? Those big things, because I ordered my proof, and
$85.
It's going to be pricey, but
yeah, they're going to be expensive.
That's a collector thing. That's for when we're famous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect to sell a lot of the hardbacks, but that's clearly not why we put that in hardback.
It's made on the skin of dragons.
I can't wait to hold it. I actually, my father's birthday is on Sunday, and I sent him a Access hardback. I really hope it arrives in time, although I know for sure it won't.
I'm trying to. I tried to send. I tried to send my dad a book because he reads all of our stuff, and I keep telling him, you know what his favorite thing right now is Everyone Gets Divorced. Like, really? And I almost told him, like, you don't have to read everything. Like the sitcoms, the comedies, you're not necessarily going to dig those. Don't feel like you need to read everything. And but he's been, I'm really digging this. And then when he got to the cliffhanger, it's like he was more impressed with that than the Beam. He's like, how could you leave me hanging? I tried to send it. That is not Rachel.
Rachel has a goatee.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Did your dad say I really love Yesterday's Gone?
I don't see anything. Get in there. It's on the
I see a window or something.
Is that your basement, Dave?
Okay. Oh my goodness! Thank God my tech person is here. Okay, can you guys see and hear me?
Yes. Now we can see and hear you.
Awesome. This is wonderful. All right, let's see. Maybe I can hear you better. Nope, my headphones aren't on. That's okay, though.
All right, awesome. So here, let me just finish the story really quickly. He's like, yeah, I'm trying not to accumulate a lot of stuff, so I'll just read the Kindle one. I'm like, oh, man, you're the one who I would give the hardback to. But whatever, I'm not going to push it on him. So,
okay.
Through his window.
Yeah. So you weren't I don't know how much of the story you... I don't know how much of the story you heard.
Hear any of this story. I'm so sorry. This is like a total nightmare. I'm sorry, you guys. Oh my God.
This is about par with our regular standard.
I should stick to narrating and not doing this tech stuff.
It was the stuff that I sent you via email about narrators having their own following. Sean told the story about how he found a second book and said, I know this narrator, and now I'm bonded to the book more, and having your narrator as a promotional partner.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot. I think that people choose books a lot of times just because of the narrator. I know that I do that. There's some narrators that I just love. That I'll just listen to anything. For instance, Rebecca Lohman, I love her. She's just great. I'll listen to pretty much anything that she that she reads, just because I like her. You know, it's the same thing as with movies and TV shows. You know, a lot of times I'll go to see any movie that has, you know, somebody I really like in it. You know, Frances McDormand, I'll go see anything that she's in. She's awesome, you know. So I think that that's part of it, for sure.
What do you think it is that bonds somebody? Because I mean, we're sort of foreign to the idea of audiobooks, and when we aren't anymore, but we don't. Sean is a recent consumer really of audiobooks, and I guess so am I on some fronts. So the idea of the story being paramount and then the audiobook being like, well, it's just a read, is like that's how we started to approach it.
No, we see it's a performance.
Right. I mean, we saw it with the solo stuff and with the produced stuff like The Beam.
Yeah, there's different. I think that for me, I have to, like, my sensibility, like my artistic sensibility has to dovetail with the artistic sensibility of the narrator. So there's different styles, first of all, of narration. There's, to me, there's two pretty much distinct styles. There's a more sort of stylized read, and then there's a more sort of conversational read. And people really like one or the other. You know, things that I like, other people don't like, and vice versa. So for me, I prefer a more conversational read. I just do. So that's one thing, I think, is just knowing what style you like. And then I think also, like, you start to develop sort of a persona. I think it happens over time because you get cast in similar projects a lot because of either your voice type or whatever, your sensibility. And so then I think people start to think, oh yeah, like I really like the things she does, or you know, that kind of thing. So for instance, with your book, with the Beam, Kai was so right up my alley, like just completely right up my alley. Like, she's badass, she's sexy, she's smart, you know, she's kind of funny in like a dry way.
Like
that's
Sean.
Something, yeah, exactly. That's something that I have been doing literally for, you know, as an actor for years before I became an audiobook narrator and voiceover person. And that's kind of what I got cast as a lot in acting. So it's kind of funny that way. It's very...
That's actually an interesting point that I hadn't thought of, is you may have a character. So like, not everybody's like this, obviously, but I know that there are many people who are that they're character actors. Like, you see them in the movie, they're always the same type of person, and you kind of like that person in addition to that actor. So does it change for you when you're reading an entirety of a book as opposed to something like The Beam where you read Kai's POV but not the other chapters?
That's a good question, actually. There's always an overriding voice of the narrator, of like, you know, and sometimes if it's in first person, it's a little easier because the whole thing is from that one person's perspective, and you're saying, I did this, I did that. When it's third person, it's a little trickier because it's an outside, you know, person. It's an omniscient, like, you know, person telling this story. But there's always a voice there. So I think it's important to, as a narrator, to tap into the voice and tell the story from that perspective, if that makes sense.
How much contact do you get from fans in your circle who are, you can tell that they're fans of your performance? And I mean, I wasn't gonna say not necessarily the book, but you know what I mean, independent of it.
That book sucked, but you're awesome.
Well, right. In what cases is it the artist behind the performance coming before the actual narrative of the book?
Right. Well, I mean, hopefully, if we're doing a good job, we're serving the book. We're not just I'm not trying to do the Rachel show when I'm doing a book. Hopefully, I'm trying to, you know, represent the author's overriding desire, what they wanted to do, their through line. So kind of, to me, it's like, you know, finding writers that I connect with and that I really like their style and I like whatever, then we both have sort of the same sensibility. So then we're presenting something together almost as a team. Kind of reminds me of, like, you know, Martin Scorsese, for instance. He is always working with the same actors, and he works with the same actors because they get him and he gets them, and it fits. It's a good fit. And so I really see audiobooks as the same kind of a thing.
How much in general do you find that authors are willing to let you lend your own performance? So here's sort of what I mean by this, and this isn't exactly the same thing, but when we had Ray on, one of the things that I mentioned to him was, I said, if you find that something just doesn't work in audio, like it works when you're reading it, but it's like he said, one of his things is if you say right. So Ray said that if you say grasped followed by a consonant sound, I think is the one that he hates, and so he's like, that's really hard. And I said,
horrible.
Grasped up, right? And like it just doesn't. And so I said, Ray, if you run into that in any of our books, like you can just change it. And he was
I'm
like,
adding that to every book.
Say that. But I would imagine that some authors would be like, don't do anything. You know, I guess it's sort of like some directors probably micromanage actors. So how much do you find that people are willing to do that?
I don't think that we have any business doing that. This is just my, my perspective is that it's my job to read the words on the page and bring them to life. And so I need to, of course I will sit there and be cursing in my booth, in the privacy of my own booth, like, oh my God, this is crazy. Another thing is like when the sentence is like a run-on sentence from hell, where it's like literally like a paragraph long and it's all one sentence, that can be challenging. Because books are meant to be read quietly. Like it's not like a play where you're writing for performance. You're actually writing for people to read it. But now with audiobooks, it's a whole new form. And so, but I think that that's our dilemma, and that's our job, is to do it and to do it well, and to not outwardly complain about it. Like, you got to do it. You got to do what's written. And I would never change something. I just wouldn't. The only exception to that is sometimes, and it happens kind of more than you would think, there's typos where it's an obvious typo in the script. Then I'll change it if it's like super obvious that like, yeah, they didn't mean that, they meant something else. But other than that, I just do what's written, and I'll do it 800 times until I get it right.
Oh, that makes sense, actually. You're a purist. You're a purist. This goes back to something you originally said when you were talking about the different kinds of performance. But would you say that if conversational is one, would you say that the other, if you're dividing it in two styles, conversational and theatrical?
I would say presentational.
Okay.
Because hopefully they're all a little bit somewhat theatrical. I mean, I know I'm conversational, but my characters are somewhat theatrical. I would say presentational. There's more of a presenting, and certain certain narrators, especially ones that have been doing it for a long time, they speak very, there's a sort of an affectation, not a bad one, but just a slight affectation to their delivery that I notice, which actually can be really pleasing on the ears. But I think just because of where I come from, and I come from voiceover, which is very conversational, I don't like doing that. I like to talk. I like to narrate the way I speak, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. That's how we feel about writing.
Yeah.
We like to write very conversationally because we write like we speak, and otherwise it feels overwritten. And you're saying you think it feels overperformed.
To me, it does. Some people really like it, but for me, I don't want to listen to something that's that presentational for over a long period of time. Although, you know what? It depends on the genre, though, too. Because I have to say that, for instance, and this is right up your alley, it's actually your book. I was listening to Yesterday's Gone, which I love, absolutely love. Thought it was great.
Thank you.
And some of the narrators are quite presentational, but it's fantastic. They really know how to tell a story, and they tell it, and it's wonderful. And I think that science fiction, sometimes you can really get away with that. It's because it's just such a grandiose genre in a way. So it worked for me.
So I know that you wouldn't and can't speak for Podium Audiobooks. We need to have those guys on. But Beam and Yesterday's Gone, and are they doing White Space or through
Yes,
Podium?
at some point.
Sure.
So when you
That
have
was actually the one they signed us up for, White Space. That was the one that got their attention first.
So they're ensemble casts. I mean, I think the Beam season 1 has 8 or so, and I think the entire cast between 2 was something like 18 narrators. So they're going to do their own promotion, obviously, like Podium is going to. But for individual narrators like you and Ray, and I don't know the other people personally, but there are several others on season 1. Do we sort of get like a marketing magnification by having multiple people who you all have your own fans?
I think so. I really do. I think that is a huge benefit to doing a multicast production. And if the narrators are, into it, some are more into it than others, they're all doing their own promotion, hopefully. So you're reaching more people. It's the same idea as like, when I used to do plays back in the day, they always wanted to do plays with a huge cast, because then they thought, well, if everybody brings 5 people, then we'll have a full house. If we do a play that only has 3 people, there's going to be not a lot of people in the audience necessarily. So I do think that is a really good strategy. And I also think it's exciting and different. And I think that some people, I'll read the reviews, and some people don't like it. Most people do, though. Most people find it kind of exciting and different. And but I have to say, I think it's important for all the narrators to be on the same page and talk to each other before recording, so that they're sort of knowing what the other characters sound like.
That's interesting. Did you have an exchange with all the other narrators before?
I did. It's a personal choice. Some narrators are really into reaching out, and some aren't, But I definitely reached out and was like, hey, do you have a sample of your character? I'd love to just hear it. Because I know when I'm listening to an audiobook, I want it to sound, it doesn't have to sound exactly the same, because we're different people, interpreting it. But I do kind of want it to sound like somewhat like the same person.
No, that's awesome. That proves that you care.
Yes.
And that's awesome. I haven't actually not listened to the Beam yet. I'm going to listen to it starting next week, and I'm actually going to hopefully get to listen to 1 and 2 back to back. Because then we're writing the 3rd season in January. So
cool. To just listen and to sit down.
I don't have to read the 300,000 words. I just get to hear it. But when they were done and they delivered it to us, I just wanted to hear what each character sounded like. So I was just, going through, and none of them sounded like, I don't know if they're good or bad. I haven't listened to them yet, but no one sounded like they did in my head, like at all.
Really? Not one?
You,
except for Kai.
Really? That's crazy.
Yes, no. I had very different people in my head.
As did I. I went and did the same thing.
Yeah.
No way. That's so
but that's
interesting.
okay. Like one of the guys who narrates a lot of our stuff right now, Ray Chase, who is Baricio in Yesterday's Gone.
He's so amazing as Baricio.
Yeah, not at all what I expected as Baricio, but that's fine. He's fantastic as Baricio, and now when we're writing Baricio stuff, I hear Ray in my head, which is kind of funny.
Right.
But no, he was a very like Matthew McConaughey almost in my head as on the page, and so Ray is definitely not doing that, but that's okay. I love what Ray's doing. But when I scrolled through and I was just listening to what everybody did on the Beam, I stopped on Kai and I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. And I was like, dude, we gotta have her on the show. Like, she's great.
Oh, that's cool.
So, no, really, really great job on Kai.
Thanks.
Well, so that actually raises another question, because what Sean just said about Ray and Baricio, so Ray has done several of ours, and he did a book called The Dream Engine, which we're writing the next 2 sequels to right now. And so when he added an affect to a character named Willoughby that I didn't hear at all in my head, and he added it, and that was interesting, and I was like, okay, Ray's interpretation of Willoughby. But then when I was writing the next 2, I changed the character, because not in a factual way, like I didn't contradict something, but I changed the rhythm of his speech.
Wow.
Because I could hear that performance in my head. Do you hear anything? Because it feels very collaborative. Like, I'm sure the Beam will change a little bit after I listen to those.
Right. I mean, that's like that's awesome. Like, for an actor, that's so cool. It's funny. I've been listening to Amy Poehler's book. She just came out with
I
a
have
book.
that
and
in my
she did the
queue.
audiobook.
Yeah.
Did you listen to it? Yeah, it's really good. It's very, very funny. And she has people come in and talk, like her friends and Seth Meyers and different people, like do little excerpts. And so the producer of Parks and Recreation was on talking about Parks and Recreation and was saying that exactly what you said, like he started writing after she was doing the character for, the first like 6 episodes or something. He really started writing the character based on her interpretation of it, and Leslie just got to be so awesome and somewhat different from what he was originally, like what he put out there.
Yeah, but
So I
that
think
just. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think at its best, it's a collaboration. I mean, to me, I come from a theater background, so I love that. I think it's great. It doesn't always happen, though. I mean, sometimes most of the time, we don't even have contact with the authors.
Yeah, there was I forget who it was. I mentioned on the show before. There was a TV producer that we like, and he was talking about how the first season of a show is never quite as gelled as the second season.
Mm-hmm.
It's once they see the first season, what the cast has done with everything, then they really come back a lot stronger in the second season. Usually, if they have a great cast.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I
find that. That's why I always think that the pilot is usually always the weakest episode, because no one knows. The actors don't even really know who the characters are yet. They're just.
Yeah, I started watching Friends with my daughter. My son went to camp 2 days ago, and so my daughter was an only child for a couple of days, and she's on the cusp of 13, and we always told her that when she was 13 she'd be allowed to watch Friends, and so she's just shy of it, and we said, your brother's gone, we'll watch Friends, and the pilot is just not. I mean, there are elements there for sure. But those characters change so much, especially
Joey is such a
right
Italian stereotype.
Right. Joey's
nothing. What is Joey like?
Well,
I don't remember seeing that.
He's got like floppy hair, and he's just.
And I think it's in the pilot, or at least in the first season, that he's making sauce. Remember that with his dad? He's chopping garlic, and it's like
we saw that one yesterday. Actually.
Yeah, he never does that. He's like
look for an old hot dog on top of the fridge before.
Right.
But a really good example of this too is the American version of The Office, right? Because that show was written, and you've got these people playing these characters a very certain way. And clearly, when the pilot was written for the U.S. audience, it's the same characters, just slightly reinterpreted. But then you see what Steve Carell does with Michael Scott, and a very different Jim and Pam, and Dwight. Oh my God, like Dwight is just so awesome that clearly the writers then have to be responsible to the quality of the show and write to those actors.
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. Do you guys, when you're writing, ever cast in your head like, oh, this would be my dream, like this is Julia Louis-Dreyfus, or this is whoever, like?
Yeah, we don't know how to do it without doing it. Well, Dave does.
Wow.
But
yeah, when Ray asked us, when he did the Dream Engine, he said, "Can you give me any like details on these people about how old they are, or whatever?" And so we just sent him our pre-production package and said, "Here's the actors that would play them, and here's
that's great
photos and everything." Sean does that every time.
Yeah, we call it casting, and we actually do. We don't just cast actors. We cast actors in specific movies. So it's like this version of that actor, and it really helps too. Now, and of course, it's just like writing for a pilot. Once we start writing the story, it becomes very different from who we cast and the way we cast them, but it's a really good starting point for us. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just FYI, in the original season of The Beam, we were very immature in our casting process. Like we hadn't really started doing it very much. But originally, Sean would have cast Mila Kunis, and then I said no. I said I think she would be an edgy Natalie Portman, and so that's who she became.
Interesting. That's cool. They're both great. So yeah, different, definitely different.
Comment, Thomas Bennett says, I have narrators I follow and narrators I avoid. I started reading my favorite series because James Marsters Spike from Buffy. Audiobooks equal access to an audience. So I have a question for you in relation to the actual topic.
The backdoor insult there, Dave.
We always go off topic. How do you interact with fans? I mean, or you and other audio talent. Do you all have websites? Do you go to conventions and stuff? What are some of the things that we don't see as writers, like how you interact with fans and how they find you? Because audio is really like a new thing to me. I'm not a big audio listener.
Yeah, like I think Twitter is awesome. Twitter to me is the best because it's just in real time. It's immediate. It's a really great way to connect with fans. If I do a blog, but it's not for audiobooks. It's actually for voiceover right now, and it's more for newbies in the voiceover industry. But what I'm realizing and wanting to do in the future is to do some sort of a blog or a newsletter for my audiobook stuff and talk about the process. I think this is, just a little, here's a little, a couple of paragraphs about what my experience was voicing Kai or whatever. So I do have that in my intentions for 2015 to do some sort of a newsletter or something where I can reach out to people and keep them, abreast of also what's coming up. And another thing that I do that I'm trying to find the right platform too is I've been doing selfies of myself doing all my books, and I try to do at least one for every book. So this was me narrating Uncle Janice. This was me narrating The Beam. I actually did a couple for The Beam. And so I've just started, I didn't know what to do with them though, so I just started an Instagram page, putting them up there. I only have a handful of them up there right now, but I just thought that was kind of an interesting idea and something that people might be interested in as well, as fans, like, oh, this is her voicing that book. So
that's cool.
So do we do we get a market? I mean, I sort of already asked this, but like, do you promote The Beam, or do you? I mean, I know you have some ACX titles. I don't know if they're revenue share or whatever, but I guess. Well, let me just say this, and then I'll finish the question. Is our two nonfiction books are narrated by a guy named Simon Whistler, and he has a podcast called The Rocking Self-Publishing. So he can, like, that's a natural promotional partner. I haven't listened. I don't think I've actually heard him mention the books, but I'm pretty sure he has to his audience. So that's like you get a marketing partner there, and I'm just wondering to what extent, if we do an audiobook, like a revenue share ACX deal or a podium deal or a pay for performance deal, to what degree we're getting a marketing partner.
It depends very much on the narrator, and that's something that you would want to take into consideration when choosing a narrator. Like, is the narrator active on social media? Does the narrator have a significant amount of followings? Do they have a website? That's all really important. Like, for me, I really want to promote it, but it's also a little bit of a fine line because people get tired of people self-promoting all the time. So I need to.
Dave gets tired every day.
I need to walk a fine line between, I do promote it. I certainly have tweeted about The Beam and posted on Facebook. I don't want to do it all the time because I don't want to get people annoyed. But another thing is, if I do it and include the publisher, then a lot of times, like, the publisher will retweet it, and then that's good because they have a bigger audience probably than I do. Like that.
Our model has been DVD extras. So one of the things that that I do when I'm writing is I keep a development diary now for relevant projects, and we've started teasing with those. So it's like, it's not quite self-promotional, but it's extra content that then makes people interested in the prime content. And I just wonder if anything like that, like snippets or outtakes. Outtakes might be amusing, like,
it's a great
like
idea.
when you couldn't get the grasped whatever.
Absolutely.
I think a blooper reel would be a good way to go.
It would be completely X-rated because I curse like a sailor when I'm, like, in the middle. It's very funny too.
Oh, you're our people.
Yeah.
But you know what's difficult? What's challenging about it though is that for me, when I'm in the moment, I want to like be getting this work done, and it's hard for my brain to also think, oh, but wait, I should stop and put this on the blooper reel because this would be good. You know, it's challenging. I want to do it more. I've thought to do it before, and I have a few things saved. But it's hard to do that, because then you're taking yourself out of it for a minute to like.
I have the same problem with social media. Like, I always think of things I should have done when I'm out of the moment, but I just like.
You should have a partner assign you a development diary or something like that.
Yeah, like if I had an engineer, I typically engineer myself. If I had an engineer, it would be so much easier, because then I would say, oh, hey, save that. Let's save that, and then the engineer would just do it and be great. But doesn't happen for me that much.
So, Dave, why don't you do we have any additional YouTube comments before we finish up? Any questions or anything? Dave monitors YouTube for us. He's our social media guy. Look at him go.
Nice.
Adam Bailey says audiobooks are my favorite way to consume fiction. Thomas Bennett says, yeah, that was the difference in the Beam season 1. I'm not sure what he's talking about, the difference. It was so much easier to follow the story. I would never have been able to finish the book. It's dense in a good way.
There you go. So it sounds like Thomas
the
actually
difference, the multiple narrators. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Thomas consumed the Beam audiobook in like 24 hours. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
Like, I sent him one of our promo codes, and like the next day he was like, okay, I'm done.
That's another thing that I wanted to mention is giveaways are awesome. Giveaways are an awesome way to connect with the fans. Everybody likes getting something for free. And it doesn't happen enough, in my opinion, where they should be giving the narrators. I mean, most of the time, and this is just a ridiculous thing, but it's true, I buy my own books because I don't even get copies of them. So, like, and I don't mind, because it's like,
oh, that's ridiculous. If you ever do one of ours,
that is ridiculous. Always email us. We'll get you the book. Like, seriously.
So, I mean, but anyway, so if we were to get like a few promotional copies, then we could give those out, and I think that would create buzz and be a good thing. But and I think if you ask the publisher, they'll do it.
Well, we get them, and but I would imagine if you're hired talent, they probably don't think to pass it on.
Right.
So
exactly.
Exactly. But please don't ever buy a book you did for us. Like, just let us know.
I don't mind. I'll help.
So
help it out. Help out the cause.
There you go. Any more, Dave, or are we ready to be done?
I believe that is it.
I thought you were going to say, I believe I could fly. That's what was coming out of Dave's mouth there. Rachel, where can people find you? Where can they connect?
Sure. I'm at rachelfulginiti.com, which is not easy to spell, but it's Rachel spelled the correct way, which is just an E-L. And then it's Fulginiti is FULGINITI. .com, and so from there you can find me on Twitter. Twitter is just my name with the @ sign, and Facebook I'm up there too, and all that. So yeah, website is probably the best way.
Fantastic. Well, don't drop off. We're gonna do our closing and just hang in there. But thanks for being on so much, and
thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're all very welcome. It's been great. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in to the Self-Publishing Podcast. Remember that Fiction Unboxed...
Johnny frozen for anybody else?
Yeah, right there at the end.
Right at
of course, for free if you get the pre-order. And that it will go up to $4.99. And that's going to be when the pre-order ends on 12/3, December 3rd. So grab it if you're going to get it. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Peace out.